Today, my wizard friends, we will slice open a silicone mold with the sword of retribution.
In this video, we're going to get into all the little details on cutting open a silicone mold. This is a freshly poured mold using a platinum silicone rubber called Moldstar 15 by Smooth On. Inside is this little cast resin figure. I've drawn some lines down the side of it where I plan on slicing open the mold. And we're going to be using what's called a jeweler's cut. If you look closely here, you'll see that I use this zigzag pattern to cut open the mold. The benefit of this is that it's kind of like a little puzzle that locks together and gives you a really tight seal before you pour the resin. And if you're wondering what all these little blue specks are, this is just recycled mold material that I mix in with the new material. It is actually Moldstar 30, which is compatible with the Moldstar 15. So my first bit of advice is to buy a scalpel. If you've ever tried to hack open a mold with a dull X-Acto knife, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A super sharp blade will make all the difference here. So here's the thing, you could get this whole little set for $6.40 on Amazon. You get the handle, you get 10 of these blades, like nice quality for costing almost nothing. They slip on, super simple. Just be super careful, these things are very sharp. But yeah, there it is. Back in the old days, I had to drive down to the medical supply store and spend $5 a piece for each blade. I think the most important thing I can say here is just to really take your time. This cut that you make, how nice it is and how well everything fits together, this is really going to partially determine how much cleanup you have on each piece. And if I'm thinking about pouring like 50 or 60 resins out of this, you know, the least amount of cleanup you have, that's really what you're going for if you want to make an efficient mold and if you want to cast efficiently. So don't rush it, take your time. It could kind of be a hassle to do this, but just take a deep breath and be patient. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pop this little piece of wood off that I had attached to the piece. This is just a little kind of reservoir. And now the piece is exposed and the line is exposed. So now I know where my starting point is going to be. It's going to be right at the ends of these lines. And what I'm going to try to do when I cut is cut straight across. I want these lines here to be perpendicular to this plane here. Before I pour the resin, I'm going to put a bunch of rubber bands around this to kind of clamp it shut so the resin doesn't pour out. So if the two halves clamp together flat, it's a really tight seal. If this is cut at an angle this way or this way, and then you clamp the pieces together and rubber band it, there's a chance that they'll move around a little bit. So I'm always trying to make sure that the two halves of the mold clamp flat. So a jeweler's cut is called a jeweler's cut because it is often used by jewelers or small metals artists to cut open molds for rings and smaller pieces of jewelry. And there's a lot of different ways you can make this cut. There's no one correct way. I am going to show you two methods that I prefer. If you look here, you could see this is a very defined zigzag pattern. But if you look inside the mold, you'll also see that there are these like small little wavy slices. So I am going to show you those two methods for this mold. When I'm starting out next to the piece, I like to do a lot of little zigzags, and then the further out I get, I will do some bigger, more defined zigzags. The bigger zigzags will give you a much better lock, but as I get closer to the piece, I want to finesse it a little bit so I can try to follow that line that runs down the piece exact. So for the smaller zigzag, I put the knife in, and as I pull it, I just kind of wiggle it back and forth. And you can see that it kind of creates this little zigzag crevice that's not super defined, but there's still enough teeth in there to lock it together. And then after I've pulled back from the piece a little bit, I will actually take the knife and kind of go in and actually slice something that's a little bit more defined. So if you look at that close up, I mean, that definitely is going to give you something that's going to lock in and hold together. So I have these on the outside and these on the inside, which works really well for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go in backwards, and I'm just going to kind of slice in and hit the sculpture and just slice straight up. Now I can slowly peel it open, and I keep doing this to always kind of see where that line is and follow the line. Then I'm going to kind of do a little bit of the wiggling motion, and then as I come out more, I am going to be a little bit more deliberate with my cuts. So there's my first cut right there. And the trick here is just to kind of slowly and methodically do this, always making sure that you know where the line is and having an idea of what direction it's headed. And then I will also keep switching back and forth. So I'm going to do a little bit here, flip it around, do a little bit there. And the benefit of this is when you get down here a ways and you're pulling the mold apart, it helps to have the other half of the mold kind of pull open as well. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, go in backwards, hit the piece, slice it up, flip the blade around, wiggle it a little bit, then do some deeper, more defined cuts. So I got those cuts on both sides. And then I'm just going to keep working it down. So I'm always going right back into where the beginning is. Same thing, wiggling the blade into that crack a bit, and then doing some larger cuts as I come out. And I can always see where that little line is in there. That's what I want to follow. The hardest part of this process is prying open both ends and then also being able to get a knife in there to cut while you're holding the mold open. If you have a friend hanging around, it would be great to get an extra pair of hands on here to pull this apart and cut. If you don't have a friend hanging around, we have this thing right here. This is a retractor. It is a surgical instrument that veterinarians use. I think to like hold open wounds or something. So I have this 4-inch one, and then I have a 6-inch one for larger molds. If you're opening a mold by yourself, this thing is super helpful. So what you can do here is you can put this in, open it up, and it'll actually lock in, and then you can come in there with your scalpel. You can follow right along that little line a bit and then make all your zigzag cuts. You can see I'm cutting into a little piece of blue filler mold, and that is super cool. Like, I used to go crazy trying to do this by myself, and then I saw a jeweler using this to take a ring out of a mold and jumped all over it. And here I am on the other side, kind of at a different angle. You can see the little black line. I'm just going to slice down it, start to wiggle the blade, and then make some more defined cuts as I come down. Something I have to pay attention to at this point is what direction I'm going to be cutting. I know that this piece loops around here, so I'm going to be keeping that in mind as I start to peel the mold open. And there have been plenty of molds where I've cut down in one direction and had to redirect and go a different direction. And that's actually not a big deal, because even if you have all these weird little flaps of silicone hanging all over, when you clamp it together and put a rubber band around it, it all holds together. But obviously, if you can get one nice clean cut perpendicular to this plane on both sides, it's going to clamp together and give you the best casting. And don't be afraid to change out your scalpel blades pretty frequently. The only bad thing about a scalpel is that the blade is so sharp that it dulls very easily. And this light blue Mold Star 15 silicone is very soft, so it's very easy to cut. Some of the other silicones that you might use, like that dark blue one that I had earlier, That's the Mold Star 30. It's a lot stiffer, so just keep in mind that depending on what rubber you're using, sometimes it could be a lot harder to cut. And there's many different ways to do all of this stuff. There's no one right way to do it. This is just a system that I've worked out over the years that really works well for me. And then at some point you're going to have to decide when to stop and pull the piece out. My opinion on that is, as soon as you think you can get to the point where you can pull the piece out without tearing the mold or without damaging the sculpture, do it. The more you cut along the sculpture, the more you're going to have to clean up on the resin. So as soon as you feel like you don't have to cut anymore and you can get it out safely, that's the time to do it. So for this particular piece, I'm right at that point. So I'm going to kind of like pop it out a little bit here. And then I can see that it pops out super easy. You know, I actually cut the mold right up to the tips of the ears. So that is the inside of my mold. And this video is a companion piece to a series of videos where I also, with this mold, show how to pour resin. And I go way back and start at the beginning and show how the mold's made. I always have links to all the videos in the description, as well as links to all of the different tools and materials that I used in the video. Feel free to leave any comments about your process, your mold making, any tips that you think might help me. That's appreciated as well. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.